Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 11th of December of 2025. Today we have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And probably the most important piece of news of the previous 24 hours is that the Russians, as a result of clashes, managed to establish complete control over the city by the name of Siversk. So the city of Siverskhas has fallen, and today we have two proofs of this. First of all, we have the statement that was made by the press secretary of the President of the Russian Federation, Peskov. He said that Putin held a meeting in the Kremlin to discuss the situation in the northern military district zone, including the full transfer of the city of Siversk to the control of the Russian armed forces. During the meeting, the president noted the positive dynamics in all areas. So that was stated officially by the Kremlin, but as well for the time when I started making this video without any video, without any interview, so most likely by the time you're going to watch this video, you will have full picture of the situation on the ground, and of course the city of Siversk itself. So let's compare the map. First of all, this is the situation by the end of the 10th of December of 2025. The Ukrainians by the end of the 10th of December controlled up to 40% of the city of Siversk, a bit less, 35%. It's a better number, more correct number. And today we got a video, this one, where this video is, the length of this video is 11 minutes and 30 seconds, and here we can see how exactly the clashes were taking place for the entire Siversk direction, not just for the city of Siversk itself, but for the entire Siversk direction. The Russians, during this, let's call it short video, 11 minutes and 30 seconds, were describing how exactly the Russians were attacking in the direction of the city of Siversk from the north, from the east, how the Russians were fighting for the settlement from the south, east, and from the south, describing and giving us the full picture of the battle for the territory. So lots of videos, lots of interesting episodes, and obviously this video is just 11 minutes and 30 seconds, but this video covers probably the period of time of 1 year between the beginning of 2025 and the end of 2025. So basically, as you can see, according to this video, according to this moment, the video describes the situation with the battle for the settlement of Bilogorovka, this one, and during that episode you could see how Russians were storming the city of Bilogorovka, this elevation, and the video ends with flags, with significant number of flags that were raised by Russians through the city of Siversk. Lots of flags, we counted more than 10, and then I stopped counting. Lots of flags, but for example, it is very difficult to geolocate most of them. For example, this flag was raised on the territory of the city of Siversk, according to the author of this video, but saying the truth, it's completely impossible to geolocate where exactly those Russians and these Russians raised the Russian flag. So lots of flags were raised, and many of them were geolocated. At least the different sources, neutral mappers, pro-Russian sources, managed to geolocate up to 4 flags through the city of Siversk. And this is a very important information. One of the flags was raised in the most northwestern part of the city of Siversk on the territory of this industrial complex, or at least what led from this complex. Another flag was raised in the area of this memorial of the T-34 tank of the Second World War tank. So we can find this. This is the moment where the Russian flag right exactly in this area. Another flag was raised basically in the most east part with civilians. One of the flags was raised in the area of the railway station, and the fifth flags were geolocated, and the fifth flag was geolocated to the south of the city of Siversk, basically on the road between the city of Siversk and the settlement of Zvanovka. So, and this is a very important detail, because I would like to point to attention that the flags were geolocated, let's call it like this, along this red line. So as you can see, there are two micro districts of the city of Siversk where nobody managed to geolocate even a single flag. We're talking about the central part of the city, this one along the river of Bakhmutka, and the most western part. So maybe during that video there were several flags that were raised exactly in these two areas, but it was impossible to geolocate them. So based on this situation, we decided to adjust just the northern part, the eastern part, the southern part. We decided to keep the central part as a gray zone, and we decided to keep the most western part of the city of Siversk also as an area under complete control of the armed forces of Ukraine. So furthermore, the most important that by the time when I started making this video, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation still hasn't confirmed information about control over the settlement. So we believe that maybe even by the time when you start watching this video, you will get this information from the Minister of Defense, and most likely tomorrow in the morning before the next video, we will adjust this territory completely. We believe that this is going to happen like this, and we will color the entire city of Siverskhas under complete control of the armed force of the Russian Federation. So the Ukrainians lost the most powerful stronghold in this area. The city of Siversk protected the settlement of Slaviansk and Kramatorsk from the east. Now the Russians, after the fall of the city of Siversk, enter the Kramatorsk-Slaviansk operational space, and of course Russians, telling the truth without facing most likely any resistance from the Ukrainian side, will continue advancing further in the western direction with the purpose to attack first of all the Slaviansk power plant. So this one. So when Russians will approach this territory, of course, most likely the power plant would be destroyed, and we believe that this power plant would be destroyed not even by the Russian side. After this moment, there are going to be a total blackout on the territories of the cities of Kramatorsk and Slaviansk, and this will force the civilians to begin massive evacuation. As we understand, Ukrainians most likely will not accept the Russia's demands regarding the withdrawal of their troops from this area. So we believe that is why the Russians would be forced to fight for both settlements, and most likely both cities, the city of Slaviansk and Kramatorsk, would be reduced to ruins. And we will see the same picture as we can see right now, the picture in the area of the city of Pokrovsk, Myrnohrad, Bakhmut, Toretsk, Chasov Yar, Konstantinovka, and the city of Siversk itself. So Ukrainians, as we understand, are going to fight not just for every single Ukrainian until the last Ukraine, but also they're going to fight for every single square kilometer if they have enough of time for this. So Russians also continue advancing in the Liman direction. As of now, the Russians are trying to avoid clashes on the territory of the city. The Russians are focused to improve their positions on the flanks. During the previous 24 hours, the Russians improved their positions in the area of the villages of Dibrova, Zerna. So on the Russian side of the river of Seversky Donetsk, we have proofs. We have this video where we can see how Russians were answering the settlement of Dibrova from the north, how Ukrainians managed to discover Russian positions and then to attack them. We have a video where we can see how Russians answered the central part of the settlement of Yampol, also using sabotage and reconnaissance group. Let's say the Russians were ambushed in this area, but this video confirms that Ukrainians don't have strong control over the territory. So first the Russians decided to resolve issues on the flanks of the city of Liman, and then they will continue offensive. The city of Liman most likely will fall in coming days, maybe not in 2025, maybe during the January of 2026, but obviously very, very soon. And then Russians will be able to shorten the distances and to maintain the line, something like this, along this red line, and from this very moment, the battle for Slaviansk-Kramatorsk will begin. So the real battle for Slaviansk and Kramatorsk will begin after blackout in this area, after the moment when the Slaviansk power plant will be destroyed by the Russians or by the Ukrainians during withdrawing their positions. Now let's return a bit back and let's talk about the northern part of the Kharkiv region. During the previous 24 hours, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation and the group of forces north confirmed that the Russians managed to establish complete control over the settlement by the name of Livan, which is located to the southwest of the city of Volchansk. So this settlement was confirmed by the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, but not the city of Siversk. Based on the report published by the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, we adjusted the map. This is the situation by the end of the 10th, and this is the 11th of December. We believe that in coming days, maybe 2-3 days, the Russians will capture the settlement of Vilcha, and they will force Ukrainians to fall back further, deep inside of the Kharkiv region. And from this bridgehead, from this line, the Russians can begin their major offensive operation with the purpose to establish complete control over the entire northeastern part of Kharkiv region. So we are talking about the territory between this red line and border between Russia and Ukraine in the northeastern part of Kharkiv region. So Russians are tasked to take these states under control, and most likely this is going to happen during 2026, during most likely the early 2026. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Konstantinovka direction. During the previous 24 hours, small changes were recorded. The Russians improved their positions along N32 road. They captured this industrial zone. They captured the bridge, according to different mappers. So Russians continue advancing, forcing the Ukrainians to fall back from this area. At the same time, we're waiting when the Russians are going to begin their offensive from the southwestern part, but we believe that Ukrainians still have strong positions, so that is why Ukrainians are not allowing the Russians to advance in this area. But I expect this attack in coming days. Now let's talk about the city of Myrnohrad. The situation for the Ukrainians in this area has become very difficult. So these are the changes on the ground between the dates. So let's compare the map between the previous several days. So this is the situation by the end of the 5th of December of 2025. And this is the moment, this is the last day when we kept the settlement of Myrnohrad as the territory under yellow color control, which means that Ukrainians probably by the 5th of December still had more or less reliable control over the territory. But starting from the 6th of December, we removed the territory, the yellow color, because we realized that Ukrainians on the 6th of December lost any chances to restore control over the territory and to restore supply lines with the city. So, and starting from this very moment, the map began adjusting significantly from day to day. So this is how the map, these are the changes during the days between the 5th and the 11th of December, and by the end of the 11th of December we have colored completely the most southern part of the city based on the reports that were published by neutral mappers, by pro-Russian sources, by pro-Ukrainian sources. So almost every single source confirmed Russian control over the southern part of the territory. And the most important, we have this video, and here we can see an FPV drone attack on the Russian soldier that was moving in this area. As you can see, the snow started in the area of Donbass. So which means that now we will be able to understand and to see the difference between archived videos and the new fresh videos. So everything we know obviously is a fresh video, at least the next several days. So Russians managed to tighten the news around Ukraine's position significantly. And the most important, that today several sources stated that the Russians captured the town hall of the city of Myrnohrad. So the sources are saying that this is the town hall of the city of Myrnohrad. So this is the area. So if this information is correct, it can be confirmed by sources, and if this information is being confirmed in coming hours, then most likely by the morning of the 11th of December of 2025 we will adjust the map or something like this. We will add additional territories under control of Russians, and now it's clear that in coming days the Russians will announce complete control over the settlement as well. Of course, both Siverskhas and Zelensky will reject this information, will deny this reality, saying that the situation is still stable, that Ukrainians control everything almost till the border with the Russian Federation, but geolocations, facts and sources are telling us completely different, describes us completely different picture on the ground. Another important video was published from the northwestern part of the city of Pokrovsk. In this video we can see that Russians began using tanks, armored vehicles, infantry fighting vehicles to attack the territory and to attack the positions of the armored forces of Ukraine. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it is the first video from the city of Pokrovsk where we can see huge amount of vehicles, armored vehicles on the territory of the city that belong to the Russian Federation. So we used to see tanks probably from Ukrainian side and just infantry from the Russian side, but starting from the 11th of December we began receiving more and more videos that confirms that Russians managed to bring not just a significant number of infantry and troops on the territory of the city, but the Russians began moving vehicles, which means that Russians currently have huge advantage with Ukrainians, in front of Ukrainians, to attack further deep inside of the territory of the rest of the Donetsk region. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Zaporozhye direction. During the previous 24 hours, small changes were recorded in this area, but they are very important. Despite the fact that the changes are small, they are very important. The Russians managed to cross the river of Gaichul and to establish control on the Ukrainian bank of the river along the Velikaya Street. This video was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and here we can see how Ukrainians were attacking Russians right exactly in this area. So we have proofs that Russians Russians cross the river and the Russians are trying to dig in deeper. If you remember, during the previous days we discussed that there are three phases of the battle for the city of Gulyai-Polye. The first phase is the clashes in the first part the clashes for the northeastern and the eastern part of the settlement, and the second phase of the battle for Gulyai-Polye is the phase when Russians are needed to cross the river of Gaichul and to dig in deeper on the Ukrainian side, and the third and the final phase of the clashes of the battle is when Russians are finishing the battle for the settlement itself. So according to the video published by Ukrainian sources from the river or from the street of Velika, we came to the conclusion that the Russians entered the second stage, the second phase of the battle for the settlement of Gulyai-Polye, which means that they're currently trying to cross the river and to dig in deeper, and they will try to consolidate their positions in the southeastern part, and from this bridgehead the Russians will continue advancing further in the northwestern direction. Furthermore, the Russians began bombing and attacking the settlement of Zalizhnye. This is already a settlement outside the original Gulyai-Polye direction. This is more likely the Orekhov direction. The Russians are bombing these territories, trying to slow down the reinforcements and reserves that Ukrainians are trying to send in this direction. So we see that the situation for Ukrainians is a very difficult one. We see that Ukrainians are not able and can't stabilize the situation. And due to this situation, we know that today another meeting, the meeting of the coalition of willing will take place. So probably this meeting has already started, and we start receiving lots of interesting statements. For example, the NATO's Rutte says European allies must increase their defense spendings to 5%. It's all about fighting Russia. We have to do it to reach our capability targets, to make sure that we can fight the Russians. So Rutte is preparing European countries to fight the Russians. How can Putin continue his war against Ukraine? The answer is China. China is Russia's lifeline. China wants to prevent its ally from being defeated in Ukraine. Without China's support, Russia would not be able to continue the war. Another important statement was made by the Chancellor of Germany, Merz, and he said that any negotiated solution needs to preserve European security interests. It must not come at the expense of the unity of the European Union and NATO. So we see that there are lots of common interests on the territory of Ukraine between Russia and the European Union, and most likely we will not find a solution from this situation, only probably with the military means. At the same time, Ukraine continue attacking Russian commercial vessels. At least the sources are saying that this attack was made by them. In this video, we can see another oil tanker that was damaged by Navy drones, which means that this is not the last one, which means that we're going to get more and more pictures of this. Another important thing is that today, the United States of America, probably through their agents, were trying to reveal information about assassination attempt that took place on the territory of Israel. If you remember, the businessman Mindich fled to Israel after his schemes were revealed by were discovered by the anti-corruption agencies, and today it has become known that somebody tried to assassinate him, and probably the competitor Zelensky, or Zelensky's enemy, stated that this is the work of Zelensky, personal work of his hands. And that's it for today. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.